If you had the money to do whatever you wanted to do, and paying bills wasn't the restraint, this is an open question to society. What would we choose to do with our lives? And having money put into various accounts that could start giving you that level of choice. That's what we're really speaking about. We're not speaking about pensions. We're speaking about freedom.
I like that. I like that very, very much. Hi, Royden.
How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Hi, thank you so much for making the time.
Pleasure.
I think I'm going to say this again. I'm just going to talk about how nice you were when I approached you. And thank you so much for agreeing to share all of the valuable insights you have.
Well, it's always, it's always an encouraging feeling when someone says, well done for what you're doing. And, when you dedicate a lot of your life to something, having other people appreciate it is always welcome. So my pleasure.
Thank you. I would like us to start by getting to know you.
Yeah.
Can you just introduce yourself to us?
Of course. So I'm Royden and I'm founder and CEO of Jarvis. It's a modern digital pension. And we absolutely focused on simplifying that word to be something that people are excited to engage with, as opposed to something that greets you with much fear.
Oh, okay. So basically just simplify pensions.
And make it useful. It's one of those words that's often confused.
Yeah.
So we, in day-to-day society, we're familiar with bank accounts.
Yeah.
We're familiar with investment accounts. ISAs is our normal language. They're just accounts with money in them that you use for different things. And a pension is no different. So changing the image and the feeling of that, we think is extremely important for us to have a different type of engagement.
I like where this is going because I just want us to talk about, first of all, what is a pension?
The best way for me to describe it, if you take away, all the fancy words, is an account. Inside of that account, there's some money. That money, you're going to decide to invest it into various places of your choosing, whether you want to buy a share in some companies, like some fanciful tech stocks that we're familiar with, or you want to keep the money relatively low risk and you give it to the British government to spend on things that they want. So there's an account, some money in it, and you have some rules. So you can't touch the money until you're a little bit older, which is fine. Like when you're a child and you have your piggy bank, you're saving up for that big thing. It's the same thing, right? So you can touch the money when it's older. And for every £1 you put into this account, the government says, hey, well done, I'm going to give you 25p. That's not a bad deal. So you put in £1, they give you 25 pence. So you now have £1.25 inside of this account. And when you get to the other end, you could get out some of the money completely free of tax. And the rest of it, you pay some taxes on, but that's fine because you have a hell of a lot more when you get to that point.
Yeah. What you're saying sounds like it's a long-term investment.
Yeah.
Or would you describe it as savings or investment?
I'll describe it as savings. They're all savings. If you think about when we speak about investing money into various things, it is surplus cash that you had that you're not going to spend. And yes, we could call it lots of complicated things, but the reality is you're saving it to do something else. And you might save it in different ways. You might hold it in cash, or you might decide, hey, I want a piece of that company, or I want to give some money to the government because I trust them. But it's savings.
I'd like us to get a bit later into what that money does. Are you just keeping it in a pot and just letting it sit there, and then inflation will do its thing? Or something can happen to the money and help you grow it in some way? I'd get there. But before that, I was just thinking about pensions and how it's often attributed to people who are older. And people my age normally do not think about pensions. And I'm just beginning to get to that realization that there might be something in the conversations on pensions that I'm missing out on. So at what point should people start caring about pensions?
I think I respond to that with a question, which is, at what point should people start caring about money? Because the images that you see of individuals who may be more advanced in years is simply because that's when they're deciding to use it. So if you think, when we put away money now, what do? We want to go on holiday, we want to put down a deposit on a car or a house. we want to give some money to some friends or maybe use it for a special occasion of some type. And all a pension is putting away some money for those very things. Like you could use it to pay off a mortgage, you could use it to go on holidays, you could use it to live normal life. But when you step back and you really simplify this, if you to ask most people, how important is £300? Now, you'll have different answers to that question. For some, it'd be extremely important to get the next meal or to get through the next month. For others, it'd be, yeah, that's easy. That's surplus cash I could just put away. If you do ask the question of, how happy would you be if you had £300 in your account, and that's all you owned in life? And again, you have different answers to that question, depending on circumstances. Now, if I was to tell you that, how much would you value £500,000 to the same people, you get a much different response, I would expect. Now, if we were to take that £300 example and we use time as a friend and we say £300 every month for 40 years, you have £500,000. So the separation, coming back to the question that you just asked about how soon should you start, how much should we care, it's just down to where you want to end and how easy you want to make your life.
Okay.
Like if you're earning, let's say, £25,000, £30,000 a year, in reality, your employer, by law, with you through auto-enrollment, you're probably saving about £200 a month in that sort of region.
Yeah.
So if you were to add another, let's say, £200-300 a month, if it could be affordable, you're probably talking having somewhere between £500,000 to £750,000 in an account by doing something really simple over a long period of time.
Yeah. That's very interesting and that's very practical.
Yeah.
And to make this very relatable, or one that can stimulate our imagination to an extent, what would it look like, or what are the chances what could the life of someone possibly be like if they do not have a pension and then they turn, say, 70?
Depends on which country you're living in.
Okay.
So let's keep it to the UK. If you're living in the UK and you decided not to have, through circumstance, you don't have any other savings, then you will need to rely on the government helping you out. Now, that comes down to how you pay taxes over the years. So whether you paid any national insurance and how much and the types. And that could range from, nothing to just under £1,000 on a monthly basis. Now, if you think about cost of living today, where for the average individual, it will cost at least £1,300 for you, combination of your food basket, your bills, various things, you automatically realize there's a deficit.
Yeah.
Now, as our supermarket bags get a bit lighter as we go in over time, and, they call it inflation, then it means that it's getting more and more challenging to live what we call a very basic life. So you can't change the past. If you're already at retirement, you haven't saved anything else, the reasons are nearly secondary. It is simply what it is. But considering the fact that even a child, before they even started paying taxes, could still get tax relief for a pension. So the government actually allows you. So, we've been using the £300 as an example. A parent, on behalf of a child, could save £240 per month into a pension account, and they will get £60 back from the government added to that account, although that child's not paying taxes. Now, what that actually means, and we spoke about that 40 years and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, imagine if that parent was saving for that child from that young age, that £300 a month, provided it's affordable. That child then continues that habit. By the time that child hits their mid-40s, that child, depending on how early the parents started and growth rate, let's say 5 to 7%, then they'll be closing in at about £1 million in the account. So I think, as with anything in life, we're speaking about wealth, we're speaking about savings, it's about consistency. Yeah. Think about what makes you good at a job. Is your consistency of doing the small things extremely well. What makes you reliable? The consistency of turning up on time. What makes you a good friend or a good parent is the consistency of always being there. And saving is no different. It's the consistency of doing that simple, sometimes boring, sometimes unaffordable thing.
Yeah.
Repeated.
Wow. So based on your experience and then the work they've done with Jarvis, what's your observation in terms of like age? Do you find that a lot of young people are now starting to pay attention to pensions?
So I think that engagement comes down a lot of times to being relatable.
Okay.
If you give one of your best friends a checkbook and a bank book, physical paper, as we used to have, and you tell them going to the bank and check on your balance every month, just once a month, and use these paying in slips to put in this money. I'm gonna give you the money, right? I'm gonna give you some money, and every month I just want you to pay in this pay-in slip into the bank account. There'd be some months that they might miss it because it's not relatable to their normal way of doing life. Like we're not used to going to banks anymore and queuing up and writing up a slip that you wouldn't even know to write.
All the time.
Yeah. But sending me a quick message that has a link and I'll just hit on that and the money comes into the account.
Yeah.
I'm used to that. So one of the key things that we wanted to do with Jarvis is to make it as easy to use as your favorite app.
Okay.
And as easy to understand as any modern day banking app. That's what we wanted to do, and that's what we've achieved. So as a result, the engagement is completely different because we're no longer talking about a pension or retirement. What we're talking about is financial independence. What we're speaking about is freedom. And it is the pursuit of many globally. Freedom is a global issue. And what we decided to build with Jarvis is a guide to get you to that freedom.
You know what? You just spoke to me right there. Because of the language that you used, I think just the whole idea of pensions, retirement plans, it just seems so far-fetched. And it also just seems like those terminologies are just a bit, I don't want to say old and tired, although they are relevant, but I just find that maybe people in their 20s or 30s may definitely relate to what you just described. And if you're speaking about financial independence, if you're speaking about getting an opportunity to be secure and just a safety net, I think that actually is much more relatable. I might actually be convinced to start contributing or pay more attention to my pensions if I had that language.
I think it's an important thing. And, we're not like any other company that says like save more, put more money into your pension. You could set up an account as little as 5 minutes. Yes, actually you could open a Jarvis account in probably 1 minute, but that's not what we speak to. What we instead speak to is saying like interact with Jarvis and just find out more. Because if you have, let's say, £5,000 from your workplace pension or 10,000 or 100,000, like what does that money actually mean? Jarvis could start giving that some definition. Jarvis could say, okay, this is the lifestyle that you said you wanted to live.
Yeah.
And we use data from across the UK to say the cost of various lifestyles. So you don't need to do too much thinking.
Yeah.
This is how much resources you've got, like pensions, ISAs, cash, etc. So we take everything into account, not just your pension.
Okay.
And then we could say, okay, you said you wanted to be like, have a lot more freedom and flexibility as a human being by age 59. Currently, based on all the resources and how you're currently set up, like you're looking at probably 71. Are you happy with that? Like, no, not really. Okay, if you're not happy with that, then we think you need to save an extra £180 a month in order to bring yourself back on track, as an example. Now, the reason why that's important is because we built Jarvis to serve the individual. But we allowed our accounts to be used in a way that an employer can now have Jarvis to give to the employees. Because auto-enrollment compliant.
Yeah.
Auto-enrollment is basically the government's way of saying, put some money away for the long term, okay?
Yeah.
Please. And because we know you're not going to listen, we're going to make you do it. And that's why about 80% of the UK working population has a pension that money is going into.
Yeah.
It is because of that legislation. So what we wanted to do and what we have achieved with Jarvis is the ability for an employer to have this for their employees. And for the first time, certainly in recent memory, an employee can engage with their future in the same way they engage with their present. You know exactly what your salary is today. Jarvis could help you to understand what your income would be in the future.
Wow. What was the one thing that made you decide to go into pensions particularly?
Good question. So I spent 15 years working in wealth management. So what I wanted to do was to bring all the knowledge that I had, that I cultivated over that time, and as opposed to that knowledge being, paid for by the top 1% of the country, how about we made all of that knowledge available to the 99%? What if we were able to inspire not just one or two individuals or a company, but what if we were able to inspire an entire nation to engage with their future in a more impactful way? And when you look at the UK pensions industry, second to property only, is the largest store of private wealth in this country. You have over £110 billion being saved into pensions every single year. The pensions market is worth, you have varying figures on this, but around £4 trillion in the UK. Second largest market of its kind in the world. Wow. Second only to the United States.
Wow.
So if you're talking about national impact, if you're talking about the ability to change a human life, you have to engage with the thing that has the most access to people. And so we set off on a mission to make pensions a vehicle, a tool, a resource that, as opposed to being a burden, because it's so complex and scary, we wanted to turn that into an ally of each person. And that's what we've managed to build.
Amazing. I'm just like, okay, I'm learning so much already. And thank you for all that's useful information.
Pleasure.
What's the one shocking thing that you've learned about people's behaviors when it comes to pensions?
One shocking thing is the amount of money that's lost. On average, if you walk down the road, you go on a bus, you go on a tube, and you count the number of people in there, multiply that by £10,000, and that's on average how much money is lost.
Lost? How?
Lost meaning I work for company 1, company 2, company 10, because we now change jobs roughly every 3-4 years on average. And I never engage with this thing that they call the pension. It was never important. It was just part of my package. So who's the provider? What's the account numbers? I moved address, so I no longer get these statements coming through, which I don't even understand. And that's a £30 billion problem in this country. £30 billion of money that people don't really engage with. They don't really know where it is. They don't really know where to find it. And that's why we built a pension finding solution with Jarvis, where all you need to do is to say where you worked. Because we believe everyone can remember the company name that they worked for. When you worked there, we believe that, again, that's a low barrier to entry. And combined with other bits of information we already have for that individual within the application, we basically go out and we track down those lost pensions and give them a single click for them to be able to consolidate it, provided there's an interest to do so.
So people tend to lose this because they do not keep track.
Because it's not something that you could easily engage with. Because you just get these statements coming through and you get a envelope that thick to read, read this to understand. It is the thing that just gets forgotten. Yeah. And what we have done with Jarvis is to create the lifetime pension so you could take it with you wherever you go. So lost pensions are a thing of the past. So if you change company, your employer can use Jarvis. If you then become self-employed, you could just still keep using your same account. You don't end up with 10 Jarvis accounts. You have one account and maybe 10 different transactions from different companies you worked for. But we wanted to start solving that problem right from the foundation. But it is a very, very big problem. But, we spoke earlier about savings and how you classify savings. Pensions, for most people, is the largest quantum of asset that they have outside of property, potentially. Yeah. That's where they have most of their money. But because there's not an easy way to engage with it, we just forget about it.
Because the other day I was watching something on the internet and there was a conversation about how some people go on retirement, they do not have money, but they have lots of money in pensions that they do not even know exist. And it's like just not having that information, which is why I think this conversation is also very important. Just not having that information and just struggling when you could have had a lot more money. But you have a lot of money. Another thing that I was thinking about is I also saw somewhere online again about how people do not add a next of kin to their pensions. So if you die, like your plus that. Can you speak a bit about that? Because I feel like people, especially in our community, do not know a lot about pensions, and also for people who are immigrants or expats who live in the UK and have families here, do not know a lot about these things, and then end up just. So, what are the key things that you'd say people should keep in mind?
So there is research that has been done that indicates that there is a wealth gap that's also impacted by educational gap. There's a correlation between wealth, a correlation between the levels of education. There's a correlation between the sex, whether it's male or female, and the amount of wealth that you've accumulated. And there are lots of depth to those studies. But the question you asked about next of kin and leaving money behind, again, if you're not engaged with it, it's not something that you even think about. But all it's saying is, if you die, who do you want to have this money? And they can have this money tax-free as a lump sum, or they can have this money as a income. So it's a really good benefit. And these things are going through legislation changes in terms of what the government allows you to have and not have. But the point is, simply logging into whichever account you have your pensions with, or calling the pension provider, or speaking to your employer and putting down children or a friend or family that you may have is critically important. The money's not going to be taken by anyone, but it needs to be known by someone.
Yes.
So having it organized in that way is helpful. Now, what we've done with Jarvis is to hyper-personalize that. So rather than going down the route of saying, put down your next of kin, like who gets this money, the beneficiary if something happens to you, we decide to take that a step further.
Yeah.
So now that you're okay, because you followed and learnt using Jarvis in terms of how to get yourself into a great position of financial freedom and flexibility, your friends and loved ones, by the way, like who are they? Okay, do you know that you're going to leave back £500 for them after you passed away and you use up everything? And like, really? Not quite happy with that, or you might be. But if you're not happy with that, like, how much money do you want to leave? 10,000, 15, 20, 100? And what Jarvis would do is to compute all of this and then say, hey, you need to save an extra £200 a month to do that. So not only that, we made sure that you have the right people associated with your accounts, but we're now making sure that the level of impact you want to have in their lives, the legacy you want to leave, we give you a chance to shape that as well.
My next question is, would my workplace pension be sufficient? I know that people contribute differently and the amount will be different, but what would your advice be in terms of, can I just rely on that, or should I go out of my way to create some kind of private pension or something differently that would consolidate the amount and make it more significant?
If you're saving an amount of money that you could afford, and that's what you can afford, that's the best you can do at this present point in time, we should always celebrate that. Now, if we look in the past, let's go back to the 1990s for a moment. In the 1990s, computers were just becoming a thing in the everyday household. For those who could afford it, you still had encyclopedias. I've just taken the mind back to where we were.
Yeah.
Now, during that time, one of the great things that we had was this thing called final salary pensions, or defined benefit pensions. What that meant is that your company put away the money on your behalf. They were saving for you. So you didn't have to do anything as the employee at all. And let's say you were earning like an easy figure, £90,000, which I'm not saying a lot of people earn that, but I'm just using easy math. You're coming towards the end of your career.
Yeah.
And you will now walk away into retirement with £60,000 for the rest of your life. 2/3 of your final salary, and that's it.
£60,000.
Yeah, 2/3.
Absolute.
Yeah. Inflation protected going forward. That was back then because the company was putting away on behalf of that individual behind the scenes between 25 to 30% of their earnings.
Are you talking about £60,000 for the rest of your life?
2/3 of whatever your final salary was. So if you want £30,000, it'd be 20,000 as an example. 2/3.
Annually or for life?
For life, every year. you get that money. Now, if we skip forward to today, I'm just trying to paint a picture of perspective. Auto-enrollment legislation, so the government legislation in terms of what we have to put away if we decide to be part of that program is 8%.
Okay.
So you're talking about a third of what was being put away in the past is what we're automatically putting away today. So when you see individuals from that generation and the things and the flexibility they have, the houses they live in, and the lifestyles that they could celebrate, that's the amount of money that was going away. So I just want to give context to that answer of, are we doing enough? Now, I believe that if the savings were increasing, it's something we have spoken about quite openly, to press and to like trying to point to shape legislation in slightly different ways. 8% is a good starting place because before it was nothing. Before, you had to be of the persuasion to want to save into pensions in order to do it. Now, at least there is something.
Yeah.
But that something is not going to be us living the type of lifestyle we want to live in the future. You need at least 50%. So nearly double what's been put away right now in order for you to be okay. But let's give that some perspective.
Yeah.
If you're earning, let's say, 25, let's call it £30,000 a year, then your employer is putting away, between you and your employer, behind the scenes, about £200 a month, somewhere in that sort of region. And of that £200 a month, if you really break it down, the bit that you're actually putting away yourself is in the region of about 100, 80 to 100, thereabouts. And then you have the various additions on top of that in terms of the company contributions and tax relief, etc. So if you were to save an extra £200 a month, just yourself, and add it to your pension, as an example, if that's the choice that you want to make, then that's us doubling the savings that you're doing. So just to give some context on these figures, increasing your savings to be impactful. So let's say you asked me previously about younger generation, people just starting out of work. They have at least 40 years that they want to be working, I would imagine. And in 40 years' time, and you're saving, let's say, £200-300 a month at 5% growth, that will be in the region of about £450,000 that you would have put away. Now, to give that, a little bit more context, and let's just round it to £500,000, it means that you'll have in the region of about £20,000-25,000 a year to live on for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Added to what you have going through with work as well. So you're now talking between £40,000 and £50,000 to live on for the rest of your life. Yes, we might need to factor in some taxes, and these are very, very crude math that we're doing right here live. But the point I'm making is a small amount could go a long way.
A long way, yeah, I agree. That makes a lot of sense. How about maxing out what you get at work? Because I've read where people are advising people to speak to their HR and ask how much what's the maximum amount they can pay, because the workplace your employer would also match that.
Absolutely. So some companies, what we spoke about was a default, the 8%, where you put in 5, the employer puts in 3. And within your 5, you have your tax breaks. Now, there's several things you could also do. So you have what's called salary exchange or salary sacrifice. So what that means is when you work, the company's paying some national insurance for you as well.
Yes.
That's the bit, so 30.8%. And that's the bit that the government's saying, because we love you as companies so much, we're going to now tax you a little bit more money. And we're going to increase your 30.8 to 15%. That's why we have all of that, ruckus around. Companies might not have, increased hiring plans. They might slow down the investments. They might, change how they remunerate people because taxes, the strain on companies is getting more significant. Now, one of the things that if you sort of think about the breakdown, every time you work and you earn money, the company has to pay some taxes on your behalf. You need to pay some taxes as well. If you decide if you're paying in £2,000 a year into your pension, and you earn £30,000 a year, the company is paying their taxes on that £30,000, the bit that they need to pay for you as an employee for national insurance. Now, if you instead reduced your salary voluntarily from the £30,000 to £28,000, so the same £2,000 that you would have put into the pension, then it means that the company is paying the national insurance tax on £28,000, not 30. And what happens is that saving, companies tend to give that to the employees. So you have that saving that could be added into your pension account.
Yeah.
You have the 2,000 that you could add into your pension account as
Okay.
well. Now, your income tax is now based on 28,000, not 30. So you're paying less income tax as well. So you end up with similar, probably the same or slightly more money in your personal account, more money in your pension account, and the employer is adding more value to you as an individual. So that's a simple thing that can be done, salary of sacrifice. But in terms of other savings, some companies do offer more than the minimum. So
Yeah.
some companies, as you quite rightly pointed out, would say, you put in an amount, we're going to put in even more for you.
Yeah.
And asking about this is highly important because it's free money. So if you don't want to ask for it and you don't use it,
Yeah.
you're not going to get it. And
Wow.
that's free money that you could never, ever go back and claim from the past. It's just use it, lose it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I also wonder if, since we've been talking about employers, what about someone who owns their own business? So you decide to start your own company, a small business, whatever it is. How do you navigate this?
Great question. So I'll answer this on the, let's just assume that business is making a profit every
Okay.
year. Let's make that assumption. And let's make an assumption as well that they have some money left back. So
Okay.
they don't reinvest all of their profits. Now, if you were to take that money out of the company as dividends, by time it ends up in your hand between corporation tax and the personal taxes, for every £1,000 that you brought in at the top of the company, you probably ended up at 500 in your hand. And I use that backdrop because a pension, as we said, is just a pot of cash that you invest into various places
Yeah.
and with some rules around it. And because he has those rules around it, we happen to call it a pension because we're going to use it at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Right? So let's just define that. Now, if you move money from your company into your pension as a director, so I own my limited company as in that context, then that's considered a business expense. In the same way, paying salaries is a business expense. In the same way that buying materials provides related to your business is a business expense. Putting money into your pension is a business expense. So what I'm saying is, it is one of the most tax efficient ways of moving money out of a corporate into your personal account for your personal long-term benefit is a pension.
I find that very interesting. It then means that it's actually really good for people who own their own businesses. I mean, that's if you're making a lot of money then.
It doesn't have to be a lot.
Is it tax-free?
Well,
Because it's a business expense,
It's a business
right?
expense. So
yeah.
effectively is for simplification.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, then...
But it could be £100. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of money. Like the limit is 60,000 in any given year. But, it is a very simple thing to do.
Yeah.
Moving money from a company into your personal account being a pension, that is one of the most tax efficient things to do. Now, you can't touch the money until you're much older,
Yeah.
but it's still your money.
Yeah. So you have to create a special pension account, right?
Nope. Same pension account that you have.
Okay. I mean, this is good information.
I think so.
Yeah, this is good information. I feel like some people... I mean, I'm learning a lot from it, and I feel like some people would also really need this information because I didn't know that.
I think the more we could speak about this and the more we could go into different examples about this, the more important and the more impact we'll have. Because ultimately, you either put money into accounts that belong to you and
Yeah.
you keep hold of it for some point in time in the future to create some more memories. If you think the things that really make us happy as people, going on holiday, went to a friend's party, went out with some friends, they're all memories.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what you can either spend the money on memories, or you could give your money to various brands, like, brands that you drive around or brands that you eat, brands that you wear.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
choice. That is the end of the debate. It is, you either give it to them and you celebrate how much these companies are growing and how big they are, or you keep it for yourself. Now, you could use cash, which is easy to get access. So it's good and bad. You can use ISAs, investment accounts,
Yeah.
slightly harder to get access to. Again, good and bad, depending on how you're using them. the future, providing you plan to be part of it, you're going to need some money there as well. So having an account that, some money goes in there and is tax efficient to do so.
Yeah.
Again, is either your money that you keep or your money that you give away.
You give away, yeah.
It's a simple choice.
Yeah. This question is going to sound very basic, but if I had, for example, I started my own business and then I wanted to create a pension, what kind of account would that go into? Would I have to create a special account for my pension, or I can put that in, for example, a cash ISA or a savings account?
Okay, I understand your question. So
yeah,
if you're moving money from a limited company and you want to tax efficiently get it out to save for yourself, if you wanted to bring it into a personal cash account, then you need to have cash coming from the company to you, which is going to be considered a dividend of some kind, which you will need to pay a lot of taxes to get hold of that cash, right? Because dividend could only be received after you had a profit. So you would have paid some corporation tax, then you'd have paid all the personal taxes, hence roughly around 50% that you keep. If you move the money to an investment account, it's the same type of thing. So you will have to use a pension account if you want it to be tax-free coming through. Now, in terms of the type of pension that you use, you have various types of pensions. You have, personal pension accounts, self-invested personal pension accounts. Let's ignore all the complicated names just for a moment. And let's rebadge them all to be called various levels of simplicity.
Okay.
So a personal pension account gives you less flexibility. So you have some various investments that you can make inside of it. You can log in, provide this a modern pension. You could see, interesting. I want to buy this stock or this fund. A fund is simply someone that decided these group of things work really well together based on risk. We're going to bring them together so you don't have to go out and choose them all yourself. And we'll work within this level of risk. And we call that a fund. And we charge you a certain amount of money for it. That's a fund. So when you in a position that you can set up one of these accounts, is just down to how simple you want it. A self-invested pension plan means that you have access to invest into a lot more things. So people might mention terms like ETFs as an example, or you might have various trackers that you could buy. They're just more things that you could access within that account. That's all it is.
Wow. This is very useful. I'm just realizing how much I don't know about pensions. So a retirement account as a pension.
All different names for the same thing.
Okay.
And this is the frustrating thing with this industry, because pensions are designed to serve the masses.
Yeah.
The language is only designed for a few. And that just makes no sense.
Yeah.
And if we simply change the language that we use to make it more relatable, to make it more understandable, to make it more culturally normal, then the engagement would be different. If imagine if you went to a store or you went online and it's speaking to you in Shakespearean English, they could be saying the same thing, but you're like, I don't get it.
Understand.
It's complicated.
Yeah. I feel like that's how people that's what people use to keep some people. I mean, this is just a whole different conversation. So because you don't understand how to do it, you don't understand how to make money, you don't understand how to keep money, you don't understand how to build wealth whatsoever, so you do not venture into it. But it's just as simple as anything. And I think it's something we should all learn. And yes, before we conclude, I'd like us to just get a holistic view of it. What are the key things? If you could just give us some bullet points, what are the key things that you've observed that you think people should be mindful of when it comes to pensions?
So if I answer the question one level up, is what are the key things that I think people should be considerate of when managing their money that they earn on a monthly basis, is as simple as understanding what's the ideal way to spend it or keep it. So I believe, through my learning and through my previous career, that you should have 50% of your earnings, irrespective of the pound sterling figure. So this is universal.
Yeah.
That's spent on your base expenses. So I'm referring to the cost of where you live, the cost of keeping yourself warm, the cost of buying yourself clothes, the cost of keeping yourself fed. I think that 30% should be spent on more lifestyle choices. So that's having fun with friends, buying things that you really like, holidays. And 20% should be used to either reduce the amount of debt, and we all have some form of debt, so reduce debt, or in the ideal path, save.
Okay.
So if we start there as a basis, and you would have, most of us in society might not be able to adhere to those rules.
Yeah.
But by having that as a benchmark, it also gives you a framework to aspire towards in terms of when you're going for a new job or salary increase. You're trying to get your income increased to a level that those bands become realistic.
Yeah.
Because if you're now in a position, as part of the working populace, to now be saving 20% of your earnings, more than likely, provided it's invested sensibly, you're going to be okay. When you combine that with the money that's going for your pension contributions at work, so we said it's 8% there.
Yeah.
I remember we said that's 20%.
Yeah.
I remember I took you back to the 1990s where I said they were saving between 25 and 30%.
Yeah.
We're now at 28. So 20% of what you earn, 8% that goes in through work.
Yeah.
So you automatically into that pension. That means that you're now in a healthy financial position. So we didn't just go through a diploma or a degree in finances just now when it said 50% on your basic expenses, 30% on lifestyle, and 20% saved, along with what's going through work, you'll probably be okay.
Is that cast in stone?
This is not a exact science. It's to give a guideline.
Okay.
And just having something to use, because the cost of getting advice is extremely high.
Yeah.
For most. And having something that you could use as a North Star, guiding light, to say, okay, this is roughly how I need to treat money, I think that's the most important thing. The secondary thing is how you choose to save that money. Because the priority right now might be, I want to get my first house.
Yeah.
It'd be foolish to put that money into an account that you can't access when you want to buy a house in 3 years' time.
Yeah. Okay.
It'd be foolish to invest some money into what would be a market that will fluctuate just naturally when you want to go on a holiday in a year's time.
Yeah.
So I think the most important thing is, firstly, how you structure money. And the secondary thing is where that money goes.
Okay.
Now, having a portion of that just going into, something to liberate yourself from the monotony in some instances of work in the normal way. Because if you were free, if you had the money to do whatever you wanted to do, and paying bills wasn't the restraint,
Yeah.
this is an open question to society.
Yeah.
What would we choose to do with our lives? And having money put into various accounts that could start giving you that level of choice, because most of us don't know the answer to that. But what if you had the time to explore the answer to that at some point in the future? That's what we're really speaking about. We're not speaking about pensions. We're speaking about freedom.
I like that. I like that very, very much. I mean, I wish I didn't have to deal with paying rent all the time and all of these things. And I think we rarely think about what we would do with our money if we didn't have all of these other responsibilities. And I think this is very important for us to all start thinking about. And thank you for sharing that.
It's my pleasure.
Is there any other thing that you think is very important that we haven't touched on?
Yes. I think that life is meant for us to have fun. Okay. And I think that we need to be able to design a life that we can have fun today, fun tomorrow, and fun at some distant point in the future. Because when we speak about, how well we're doing, or we're really happy, or something made me really excited, what we're speaking about is a memory. Think about how you feel when you come back from a holiday and you're showing your friends these memories that they sometimes can't relate to, but they're very important to you. That, I believe, is the absolute essence of life, is being able to collect the right types of memories that are really material to you, and giving yourself the maximum opportunity to create these memories now and in the future should be the destiny for us all.
That's a fantastic reminder, especially just about after talking about money. And I know that sometimes we try so hard to keep the money and save as much as we can, and also not find a balance. And I think that's very important. I have one final question for you, if you don't mind. What does kindness mean to you?
Kindness.
Yeah.
Firstly, is a word that allows me to take pause. I think that the key things that come to mind when I think about kindness is empathy. Being able to relate to someone else at a level that you're in a position to add value to them. Now, value would mean different things at different times and different stages in life. A value could be a smile, because you don't know the impact that that smile will have in someone else's life. Value could be a helping hand, sometimes literally. So I think it's based on your ability to take everything that you have, everything that you know, and be a good custodian of those things. And things are not always material. Yeah. Things could be a spoken word. And being able to use your words in the right way, being able to use a smile in the right way, being able to use the things you have in the right way, to have maximum impact for human beings, that to me, on reflection, I'll quantify as kindness.
Wow. That just made me smile a lot. Thank you so much. And I really agree with that. And I appreciate that you started with empathy, because it's something that we seldom think about. And a lot of people don't really realize that if we're all empathetic, the world would be much better than it is right now.
I believe so.
So thank you very much. And you have been immensely kind to us, so thank you. Oh, we have something very small for you to say a big thank you.
Oh.
For your kindness.
Thank you. I love gifts. I appreciate
you love
that.
It. I really
Absolutely.
do hope that you love it.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
And for spending your Saturday afternoon with us.
I wouldn't have had anything else I'd rather doing than right now.
I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you.